is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris, and I am joined by two of the titans in the industry. One who does have another job at another network, and the other person joined him in a little crossover episode yesterday. Jurg and Dame, how are we, fellas? I know you guys had a little tag team moment for the tag team championship yesterday. How are we?
We're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good. It was a nice episode yesterday. The Bunts and Bruises podcast welcomed Dame on for the first time, and he hit it out the park. Dame was excellent. James loved it, and definitely expect to see Dame back on, sometime in the very near future for sure. But, coming off of that back into this show, back-to-back great shows is what I'm looking forward to, boys.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I had a great time yesterday. Happy to do it again anytime you guys welcome me. Go make sure you go check that episode out. Kind of sucks coming back to doing a show with Chris, but it is what it is. Got to do it. But here we are.
Yeah. I hope Bunts and Bruises never includes Damien in another episode again. But look, if ratings say that Damien was a good addition, then you got to do what the numbers tell you, right? But we are not here to talk about Yunts and Bruises. We're here to talk about Somewhat Sports, and what Somewhat Sports talks about is sports. And I would say we're near basketball season that's coming up. And guys, can you believe it? We're already in week 5. We're entering week 5 of the NFL season. It feels like it just started yesterday. It feels like last night was the Bucks versus the Cowboys. But look, we're in week 5. Time's flying by. Science, all that stuff. Look, this is gonna be another kind of free discussion type of episode. But we are gonna follow some news that did occur, and then we're going to kind of go on a little status report on some NFL teams that we're going to talk about. That sound good, gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, in regards to the news that has been confirmed, so the Patriots trade Stephon Gilmore, who is unable to play until after Week 6, side note, to the Carolina Panthers for a sixth rounder. Now, Patriots traded him because I believe, from what I read, the two parties were unable to come to an agreement on a restructure deal. I think he's coming off a surgery, Jurg, right? Yeah. So he gets traded to the Panthers. Panthers beef up the cornerback position, in which they are in a position they kind of already strengthened after they made that trade last week. I don't know if we talked about it, but if you guys want to cover that too. So Panthers strengthened the position in which they strengthened, but also they kind of got weakened because J.C. Horn is out for an unforeseeable amount of time after a broken foot. So, man, Panthers look like they're very serious going forward. Now, let me start off with Jurg. What do we think about this deal for the Panthers, of course? And were you surprised at it when the announcement occurred that they were releasing him, but then they ended up trading him, I believe, because I think they couldn't find a partner. And I don't know. I think this maybe came last minute. I don't know my details, but maybe you could clarify. So, what do you think?
Yeah, so the whole idea was that they were going to release him because they believed they hadn't found a partner yet. And ultimately, I guess just before they officially did it, because it's a whole paperwork thing still, despite
Yeah.
despite how digital and modern the world is, these leagues still require paperwork for a lot of this stuff. And I guess it had to have been before everything was official and all that. I'm gonna be interested to hear what happened specifically if we do get it, but I'm assuming the Panthers probably went back to the Patriots one more time, or the Patriots looked at it as like, okay, this is the best we could do. Maybe this is the first team that got back to us one final time. Hey, let's just do it. Let's get something back for Gilmore, and we just move on from there. I definitely would have been shocked if he would have just been allowed to walk free, because I think Gilmore, he's a great addition to any team. He was put on the reserve list back in the preseason. So there is an injury to deal with that is coming off from last season. But I think for all intents and purposes, like he should be good to go relatively soon. I don't think he'll be out any longer. I know you said he can't play until week 6, I believe. But I think soon after that, we will be seeing him on the field again. And I think the Carolina Panthers, they reap the benefit of a market that in 2 years vastly went down. Like the offseason that Tom Brady left, which I know it was just last year, but let's just go back to that. If you had gone back to last offseason and the Patriots had begun a proper rebuild of everything, and they had decided to trade Gilmore last year, I'm not even joking, where I think they could have tried to finesse a first round pick from the right team. They really could have. Or even if not a first, a second and a fourth, or a second and a third. all depends. But ultimately, this is a former defensive player of the year at one point for a stretch of time of 2 or 3 years, one of the top 5, 6, 7 corners in the game when he was 100% healthy. Obviously, has not been the case since last year. I think Gilmore's definitely had his injury issues, but I think he still has a chance that when he's out on the field, he can still contribute to the team. And I think Carolina Panthers, need met the market here. Yeah, with the J.C. Horn injury, yes, they did trade for C.J. Henderson, but I don't think it's enough. And after the way they lost to the Dallas Cowboys, I think it just made them want to go further into this, going all in, not all in necessarily like, go broke or, they're giving up so much, but they want to build something here. They want to show that they can be a winner. They want to show they're not afraid to make the right moves. And I think that's what the Stephon Gilmore trade does for them. And they only have to give up a sixth. Like Gilly could be at 80% of what he is. And a 6th-round pick is not bad at all. So I think just a absolute W here for the Carolina Panthers when it comes to this deal. They traded a late round pick for a guy who could, if he returns to somewhat form, a number one corner on that team. Like, come on now.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the Panthers, like it's an absolute W, like you said. Like they're getting a top 5 corner, in my opinion, in the entire league. When you mentioned what they probably could have gotten from last year, I definitely think they could have gotten a first for him. I mean, the Jamal Adams trade happened a year and a half ago, and they got 2 first-round picks. And at that time, Stephon Gilmore was regarded as a lot better player than Jamal Adams was. So there's no doubt in my mind they would have got a first, if not first plus. When it comes down to this deal, I think the fact that it came out that they want to release him, I think the reason the Panthers went out and made the trade instead of waiting to release him because they probably viewed it as if he gets released, he's probably going to go to like a real contender like the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Packers, something like that. So to make sure they guarantee they get him on their team, they were the ones to step up and take the trade. Most of these contending teams really couldn't offer a 6th-round pick or anything like that, anything in a trade to really take him because they don't have the cap space to take on his salary for remainder of the year. Uh, Unlike the Panthers, who do have enough salary cap, that's why they were able to take on his entire salary and they gave a draft pick to do it. As for the Patriots, like it's a W for them too because they were going to release him and get nothing for him at the end of the day, and then they got a 6th-round pick, which is better than nothing. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. Like you get a lot of good players if you know how to draft at the end of the round, and of course they get the Panthers to pay off his entire salary, which if they released him, they would have had to pay a portion of it. So for both teams, I think it's definitely a W. Stephon Gilmore, I know he's from Carolina. I read that when the news broke. So it's definitely a win for them. I mean, look at that secondary. It's probably the best secondary in the league if you just by depth. They have Stephon Gilmore. You got C.J. Henderson, Dory Jackson, A.J. Bouye, and then J.C. Horn, of course, next year. Like, that secondary is loaded. So for both teams, to me, it's definitely a win.
All right, yeah, and again, we don't know when J.C. Horn's gonna come back, but we could assume that. I mean, I think we could say for a fact that they definitely have some insurance policies till he does get back. So shout out to the Panthers for making moves in a division that everyone thinks is the Bucks. For the taking. It's theirs until it's not theirs. So shout out to the Panthers for making it. At least a little competitive. We move on over to another bit of news in which the Cowboys released linebacker Jaylon Smith. That's right, to I think the surprise of many, I don't know, who knows. And Jaylon Smith is now signing with the Packers. So, Dame, what do you think of the news? What do you think of it for the Cowboys? But especially, what do you think of it for the Packers?
Well, when I got the news when I was watching the horrific Yankee game, but I was extremely surprised. But I guess I didn't take much into it because I was kind of into the Yankee game. But the next day when I really looked at it, like I guess this really shows you how much the Cowboys value and view Micah Parsons because he plays a very similar position. So I know Parsons, of course, has started outstanding this year, both from pass rushing to coverage to being all over the field. So I think that says a lot about what the Cowboys think of him. But as for Jaylon Smith himself, like he really hasn't lived up to the hype that he had out of college. When he was drafted, I know he was drafted off of ACL, so that's why he was drafted in the 2nd round. He probably would have been a 1st-round pick. Maybe the knee injury is the reason for it, but his rookie year, his first year, they did play. Like he played pretty well, but since then, since he got that contract, it's really been downhill. And there's a lot of money to pay for a guy who you have a better guy at his exact same position on a rookie contract. So for the Cowboys, I see why they did it. It was surprising to me. why they couldn't get a trade done for it, because he is still young and he still has so much potential. But I mean, on the Cowboys side of it, like I said, it's just how they view Micah Parsons. For the Packers, though, I think it's a steal for them. Don't have to give up anything. You just sign him on a contract as a free agent. That defense obviously could use work. Anything. I mean, they're never gonna get him Aaron Rodgers a receiver, I guess, or any kind of offensive weapon. So you might as well just build that defense as much as you can. And adding a guy like James Smith, who's very versatile and still young, I think will definitely boost that defense and help Aaron Rodgers on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised from the idea of I expected Jaylon Smith to eventually be released, honestly, because he hadn't really played up to his contract for the most part since he got the extension. He came in like he was pretty good initially coming out. He was one of those kids. He came into the league hurt, and Dallas took a risk on him, and he's played pretty well. Honestly, he was able to earn a second deal for a reason. But obviously, to Jerry Jones, to the Cowboys, and to their capologist, was no longer worth the price tag, so they decided to just cut him, and he's going to have a dead cap hit for this season, and I believe next season. Amounts depending on how much he got paid in his recent one-year deal when it comes to the Packers. But ultimately, kind of like Dame said, with Micah Parsons coming in and him being as versatile as he is, I'm assuming they're still hoping that Leighton Vander Esch can kind of have a bounce back year this year and hope that they can at least pay him to soften the blow at the linebacker position. But I think ultimately with Jaylon Smith, it was just the idea that the production dipped and the Cowboys just didn't want him anymore. And like I said, I wasn't surprised. I would have thought they would have at least waited to the offseason for, I believe next year's dead cap it would have been a bit less had they waited, but obviously they didn't want to. They didn't feel like him. They just decided to cut him. And kind of like you guys, like it's a bit shocking, but like Dame said, at this point, so many teams are so set in the cap that it's very rare for teams like the Panthers to be able to have an ample amount of cap space to take on these guys. And I think that was just the case with Jaylon Smith, to where had this been like the last year of his rookie deal and they were thinking about cutting him, I think someone would have taken the chance. But because this was a bigger contract, salary, have to take all that into account, and probably no one wanted to pay off his salary, kind of like the Panthers were willing to do with Gilmore. I think that's ultimately what led to it. And, subsequently now him with the Packers need help with the linebacking core. So maybe he does help there. If he could get a little bit of resurgence, he could set himself up nice for next summer, where people are hoping the cap slowly does start to get back up there. But at the end of the day, this is kind of low risk for the Packers. For Jaylon Smith, he just has to go out there and play at this point. That's all he could do. Can recoup the value that many had, because there was a good bit there. Like, he was a pretty good linebacker for the Cowboys. So that's all in all with that situation.
All right. Phenomenal as always, gentlemen. Let's move on over to the status report, the Somewhat Sports status report of the NFL. So I have a couple of storylines that I've come up with that we're going to talk about here. So, Jurg, since we finished off with you on that one, we'll start off with you on this one. The Cardinals are 4-0, the only undefeated team left in the NFL. Kyler Murray, I think, is the leading candidate for MVP. I think we're all in consensus on that one. And the Cardinals look really good. You look at their offense right now. We got Kyler Murray, Chase Edmonds, DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore, James Conner. They are lights out on offense, I ask both of you, but I'll start off with Jurg. Do you think the Cardinals are a threat in the NFC? Do you think they could be a contender? Like, I know we're in week 4 and we're maybe jumping the gun here, but based on what you see so far, and look, they did handle the Rams,
Right.
mightily this past week. So I think it was 37-20, but the game wasn't close. So I'm looking at the stacked offense. It's pretty decent defense, to be honest. What do we think?
So it really, to me, what's going to happen to this team all depends on two things. It's, can the defense perform more often than not how they did against the Rams, where they only let the Rams have 20 points in that one? Or are they going to perform like they've struggled a few times, like how Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings lit them up? That they ended well, of course, and of course this isn't a good team, but they start off a bit slow for Jacksonville, which was concerning for a bit. That's my main factor when it comes to how good this team could potentially be, because like you said, the offense is fine, but this is the next portion. Will Kyler Murray be 100% healthy the entire time? Because I always point back to this, because it's important. When you go back to last season, when Kyler got hurt to the end of the year, this offense didn't look as explosive as it could have been because he was hampered. Kyler Murray makes Cliff Kingsbury's offense look really good. He helps these weapons. It's a good depth of weapons. It's a plethora of guys, so a couple quarterbacks could do the same. But Kyler being in this offense just adds that whole other dimension to where he's so electric with his running ability that when he just uncorks it, like him to DeAndre Hopkins has done well. Him and AJ Green have actually built up a decent rapport. Like AJ Green is looking a lot better than he did towards the end of his Cincinnati Bengals tenure. The running back situation, it could be better, but with having Kyler Murray, you'll take a passable running back situation when you have a running quarterback such as himself. Um, in terms of are they legit, I think there is an argument to make for that because they passed their early test. They defeated the Rams in Los Angeles. Like that's a big deal if I'm not mistaken. To beat the team that we all expected to be the number one team in this division that has Matthew Stafford, like they handed them their first loss, and it's a bad loss, to an extent as well. Like not because they lost to a good team, but it's because they got blown out. And like you said, even though it was a 2-touchdown game, it kind of felt like a little bit more than that at times with how Kyler was just toying with that defense. So at the end of the day, I think there is a case here for the Cardinals to be legit. Now, what constitutes as that? I firmly have them making the playoffs. I think at this point you can say like a divisional round appearance for certain with them. NFC Championship game, I don't know. It really all depends. Like, will they beat the Rams in a playoff rematch? Could they beat the Buccaneers? Him and Rodgers, how would that duel go out? It's all well. Actually, he might be able to at least torch that Packers defense. That's not saying a lot, but But yeah, no. I think if I had to lean towards way, I think the Cardinals are a legitimate dark horse at this point. I really do.
Dane, before you go, Jurg, could you see them competing with the Bucks?
Whew. That's a good one. I mean, as of right now, I kind of have to say yes because that Bucks defense is kind of dinged up at the moment. They just brought in Richard Sherman because they've had a couple injuries to that secondary, and you don't want to have it like if you're going up against the Cardinals, you don't want your secondary to be the weak portion of your team because then you're relying on second, third stringers to have to guard DeAndre Hopkins, to have to guard Christian Kirk if he has a big game, to have to deal with AJ Green, like that's a dangerous proposition right there when it comes to dealing with this Cardinals team. Like I think as of now, I think if the two teams were to meet up, I think the Cardinals could definitely they'd give them a game. It would not be a blowout in Tampa's favor. I don't think. I think Kyler and that team could give them a run for their money for a couple quarters.
Um, I think I'm pleasantly surprised with how the Cardinals are playing. I was not expecting them to be this good, especially that defense who's been balling out and really helping that offense be comfortable and let them do what they do. However, I don't really see them yet as a true contender in the NFC. Like I know they just beat the Rams really bad, but I still have more confidence in the Rams than I do in the Cardinals. I don't think they're near the Bucks. I think the Cowboys are still better. Like I just need to see more from them other than just 4 games in the season. Like if it was up to 4 games last year, like the Seahawks probably would have been the best team. Russell Wilson would have been the MVP, and we saw what happened in the second half of the year. So I'm going to need to see more from the Cardinals, not necessarily more like based on their performance, but just more games and just repeating and being more consistent with it. Um, but I definitely am surprised. Kyle Murray probably right now is the front runner for MVP. He's been playing excellent, but he also played excellent last year, and then he got dinged up towards the end and kind of slowed off. So let's keep an eye on that. Make sure he stays healthy and stuff. Make sure our defense stays healthy. JJ Watt has obviously an injury history. AJ Green on offense has an injury history. Like, there's just a lot I need to see from this team to really crown them as a true contender in NFC. Like I said, they probably are my 4th best team in NFC right now, behind the Cowboys, Bucks, and Rams. But and the Packers. So what am I saying? So 5th. So, but I definitely have them as a playoff team, and but honestly, they could be any team. When it comes to the playoffs, they are one of the teams that I think could really upset any of those teams above them.
All right, and now rebounding off that, another NFC West team, excuse me, who is 2-2 at the moment, will be going forward with a change in the quarterback position. So I think Jimmy G is hurt. I don't know for how long, but I mean, there's no timetable. But let's just assume that the Niners are going forward with Trey Lance, at least for the time being. Dame, what do we think? Do we like this for the Niners? Is it time for the change? Is it the time now? You know, the NFC West is wild stacked. Do you think that them going forward with Trey Lance, could help revitalize them in the standings at least for the NFC West?
Honestly, it's not really upsetting because Jimmy G is hurt. Like, he hasn't been practicing all week. So I think if he was healthy, he would have been their starter, because clearly if you watch Trey Lance, like, there's still a lot of work to be done. You see the potential in plays here and there where he shows what he can do, but there's a lot of work to be done there. He needs a lot of game rep and practice time and all that stuff to really reach his full potential. So if they're gonna really punt this season away, then you might as well start Trey Lance for the rest of the year. Let him develop, let him make those mistakes, let him learn from it, no matter if Jimmy G is healthy or not. But if they're really going to try to contend and try to make a run for it, then I do think they should stay with Jimmy G once he is healthy. He's just more proven. He doesn't make as many mistakes as Trey Lance. He's more experienced, obviously. He's been there, done that. He's went to the Super Bowl. So it's up to 49ers what they want to do. If Jimmy G is healthy and they really want to try to make a run at it, whether it's the playoffs or Super Bowl or just stay competitive, I think they should stay with Jimmy G. But if they truly are looking towards the future and want the best for Trey Lance and the franchise moving forward, I think they should stay with Trey Lance.
So in regards to Trey Lance and now his very accelerated time, I think definitely the 49ers weren't, I don't want to say they weren't hoping for this because I think they definitely wanted to test him out at some point, but Jimmy G with this early injury, which has just been the story of his tenure in San Francisco, it really has been. A couple torn ACLs, I think. Um, Even when they first traded for him, he started 5 games and then didn't start the last 2, I think, due to injury or something like that. I don't know. It'll be intriguing. Like we saw a little bit of him against Seattle. We saw some good things. We know that he has a cannon, right? Like we know he's got a strong arm. He could throw it down the field. And I think for the San Francisco 49ers offense that they need some more downfield threat capabilities. So I think he helps there. And Kyle Shanahan, the reason he drafted him was to get a running quarterback in there. I think despite the fact he's had these pocket passes his whole career from Kirk Cousins to Matt Ryan to Jimmy G, I think he understands that you need a quarterback soon here to kind of do more that can also be a runner. And I think Trey Lance can be that. But like Dame said, he needs a lot of practice reps. Like I think if you're going with Trey Lance, then I think the expectations need to be tempered here for the San Francisco 49ers to where like, yes, there will be some games where the team can like rally around the kid and like they'll help him win. And he will have the occasional game where he just balls out and maybe they win. But I don't think they'll be as concrete of a playoff team for the rest of the season if he has to start the rest of the way. Of course, it all depends. This could just be temporary, and maybe they run back to Jimmy G if it's not going so hot. You never know what could happen. But for right now, hey, Trey Lance, like the ball's in your court, and you could completely make the starting job yours, guaranteed for the rest of the season, and obviously all the years beyond it if he performs well. So, I mean, you hope that for the kid, but the odds are he's going to struggle here. I wouldn't be surprised if, not to the same extent, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has a Zach Wilson start within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Like 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, struggles a little bit because it's different when teams start game planning against you, and I think he's going to have to get used to that now at this level.
That's a low blow, Jurg. I'll let it slide for now. There's no Zach Wilson slander in this podcast, but whatever. Moving on. So some news coming out the Browns camp. Baker Mayfield is playing with a partially torn labrum. I think he's opting not to get surgery on this, but Jurg, I mean, this could be something that, lingers, going forward, and it could affect his performance, and of course his performance is going to affect the Browns. But I mean, what do you think? Is this something that is going to like hold the Browns back? Is this something that might affect them going forward? Especially, they're a team that a lot of people projected to. They're one of the teams that a lot of people projected could go to the AFC Championship game. It's them, the Chiefs, and the Bills. I think are the primary 3 that a lot of people expect going that far.
Right.
So what do you think? Is this an injury that people should be concerned about, particularly Browns fans, since it's their guy, it's their quarterback, who
Right.
in which this year is extremely important for him because he's on a contract year.
Yeah.
So I guess what do you make of this for Baker Mayfield, and what do you make of this for the Browns going forward?
I think in regards to Baker, I just think that means that I don't foresee him getting that contract extension now, and I wouldn't be surprised if I believe this is year 4 of the Baker Mayfield tenure, so this is the last year of his rookie deal. They exercised the 5th-year option, so they have that. Like I think a lot of people forget about that when it comes to the contract. I know teams tend to do this where they do exercise the 5th year and then they do the extension because then you get to spread out the money a little bit differently. But they could just play out next season on the 5th year, and it would be an increase from this year, yes, but it wouldn't be the upgrade to 35 million or 40 million or whatever amount that Baker Mayfield's group is going to go after in the extension. So I think for Baker, like the odds of him now getting this contract extension to me kind of falter at the moment. The Obviously just based off of performance to this point. What it means for the Browns, I'm not certain because the thing is like this is a torn labrum in his non-throwing shoulder, and how much will it bother him Look, I'm no medical expert. I'm also not like a pro at this. Like, how much does it bother him having to, he gathers the ball and he throws it with his other arm, yes, but in terms of, maybe having to run around, swivel his body, you take a couple hits, that, I mean, if it becomes completely torn, like, I don't think he'll be able to play, even if it is his non-throwing arm. So I don't know, like, it certainly adds a whole ripple effect to this. It definitely puts everything into a perspective for the Browns. It's like, okay, how are we going to approach this? Because Baker's saying he's going to play through it. I'm 100% certain the Cleveland Browns are having a hand in this. Like, they're discussing with him. They're having their doctors check him every single time he comes in the facility, et cetera, et cetera. So I would say, like, keep this in your mind throughout the year. Like, this is going to come up again later in the season, depending on how Baker's doing. But yeah, like, that's I just don't know, because this is not throwing, and I don't have the expertise to be able to comment on that. I just don't. Like, I want to say it will affect him a little bit, because he hasn't looked that great to start this season. Like, I think he's only got 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions to this point in 4 games, which is ridiculously low. So I don't know. Like, you hope for Cleveland it won't affect you, that he could just push through it. But let's see.
I know a guy who's an expert on shoulders, but when it comes to Baker Mayfield, I think he'll be fine if he doesn't get like that one big hit where he lands on his off shoulder. Like, obviously, he doesn't need his non-throwing shoulder to throw the ball. So overall, he'll be fine. He just needs his offensive line to protect him and kind of protect himself if he sees a big hit coming or something like that. Like land on your back, land on your front, or something like that. Just make sure you don't land on that bad shoulder, because it could get a lot worse. And it's not only for this season; like, it could be a long-term effect as well. As for OBJ with his torn labrum, like, don't get me started. I think that's a whole. I think it's a hoax. He said he's been having it for 10 years. He just opted not
A
to.
decade?
That's what that's what he said. He just opted not to have surgery. Like, that made me just know that it's just bullshit. Like, he's lying about it. He's just dragging it. He's a drama queen. Like, just like LeBron, that's something LeBron would say. Like, obviously I'm a LeBron fan, but that's something LeBron would say. Like, I've been playing with a torn labrum for 10 years. Just strive for greatness, this and that. Like, that's some shit that I think OBJ is doing right now. Like, maybe he's had shoulder problems, sole shoulder here and there, but he does not. He has not been playing for the past 10 years of his career, from NFL to LSU in college, with a torn labrum. Like, you don't think that stuff would have been like showed at the NFL Combine, when doctors go through tons and tons of tests on the prospect's body? You don't think that would have been shown? Like, this guy, I don't know, he's just dragging it. I know he's lying. Like, it's so obvious. So OBJ's lying. Baker Mayfield will be fine.
Oh, I mean, he's just built different, Damien. The OBJ's built different. I didn't know this was going to turn into an OBJ slander, but I mean, I guess
Him saying he's had it for a decade is kind of wild. Like, if he had said I've had it since like my last season with the Giants going to Cleveland, that I can actually kind of see.
I would have been 100% okay with it. I had no problem. I would have believed him. But 10 years, bro, like, you know how many tests and like stuff they go through at the draft combine? Like, you don't think that would have been shown at any of the tests, and it wouldn't been like reported or anything like that? Like, man, shut up.
At LSU too, like, the doctors would have said something. Like, LSU is a Division I SEC power. They're trying to get W's. Like, they're not just gonna let. I mean, okay, maybe they would, but they would have said something. Like, that's what makes this doubtful.
All right, clearly not a pro OBJ podcast, but
no, it's
let's
not
move
a
on.
liar podcast.
All right, let's move on. There is a fiasco going on in Jacksonville. Jurg, let me start off with you, because I know you're a massive Urban Meyer fan.
I'm so happy we're talking about this.
He is at the forefront of this disaster, I guess. Look, and you know what? I want to say something real quick. The NFL quote analysts, or like the media quote experts,
Oh, yeah, I know where this is going.
They were just like, well, thank God, Trevor Lawrence didn't go to the Jets. All right, let's get this straight. The Jets may suck, but at least, they seem a little stable from the organization down. They just suck, right? They're just devoid of talent.
Robert Saleh wouldn't have done this.
Robert Saleh, what an angel he is. Mwah, bless him. But Urban Meyer and the Jaguars are a dumpster fire. You know what? So Urban Meyer was at a club, I think. I don't know where he was at, or a bar. And he was seen with, like, I guess, younger women or whatnot. And he was just, I guess, drunk and just doing things that people our age would probably do. I don't know. You know what, Jurg? I'm going to let you handle the Urban Meyer aspect. But look, the Jags are 0-4. And it's one thing to just suck as a team. I know they barely lost to the Bengals, but still, an L's an L. And they looked a little better that game. But still, they're 0-4. I think their next game is against the Titans. I'm not
Yep,
sure. Could someone fact check that?
it
Okay, thank
is.
you, Jurg.
Yeah.
They're going against the Titans. Urban Meyer's at the forefront of this disaster. Jags look like a mess right now. I feel bad for Trevor Lawrence, but okay, it's not the Jets, right? Jacksonville's clearly a better place to be at for a young quarterback, a young generational quarterback, as some would say. So, Jurg, talk to me. What do we have to say about this fiasco in Jacksonville, Florida, that pit in the NFL?
That Urban Meyer's track record of all this off the field stuff, even going back to his college days, is about as clean as the streets of New York City were in the entirety of the 1900s, and I mean the entire city.
Good one.
Like, bro, it's absolutely insane. You go back to his college tenure. Like, I don't know if anything was like shifty or shady in Toledo, but it's Toledo. Who gives a damn? The dude had a huddle full of murderers, drug dealers, and all that at Florida. And it took Tim Tebow, who's essentially a pastor turned into a football player, to hide all that. Goes to Ohio State, like, buys himself a career worth of excuses with the national championship that they won. Hit a lot of his coaches, doing bad stuff, especially one of his most recent ones that, was not accused, like committed domestic violence, but yet none of this stuck to Urban. And then he comes into the NFL, and I forget which position. I want to say maybe one of the athletic coaches, like one of the strength and conditioning coaches. Like it was someone who in college football the previous season, or not just the previous season, but in his college football career had said the N word apparently, or said um, terms and phrases regarding defamation type things to black players. What a tenure Urban Meyer has had, huh? And that's not even just in Jacksonville. Like, I'm not surprised that something like this happened. I'm shocked it's happened after week 4. Like, dude, come on now. You're 0-4 and this is what it's turning to. He might drink himself into alcohol poisoning by like week 13 if this is really what it's going to take to get to this
You'd
point.
like that, wouldn't you, Jurg?
I don't want the guy to
I'm just joking.
No. But like like here's the thing. I don't care what you do off the field for the most part. Like if you Urban Meyer are gonna start issues in your own family, I don't care. I really don't. You want to ruin the Meyer family, you want to split it apart, like that's your pejorative, brother. Like go ahead and do your thing. Like Chris said, you want to act like us out in a bar, and talk to women our age, funny enough. Like go ahead, do you, Urban, do you. But at the same time, like it just really doesn't help that the team is playing like garbage right now, and he has not helped. Like just nothing is going right in Jacksonville, and this is part of the reason. Like this is another example of why college coaches don't work in football and in basketball. These dictators come in and they think they could run it like college. No, you can't. And this is something that in Ohio State, if this had been after an Ohio State loss, like there would have been attention to it, but it wouldn't have been as much scrutiny because everyone's like, oh, Ohio State's going to be fine. They're best team in the Big Ten, all that. Not how it works in the pros, brother. Like you got to understand that. You got to learn. Like he didn't go home with the team. Just this is a tire fire. This is a dumpster fire. This is everything. This might be worse than what New York City streets were like in the 1900s because at least there was some class back in the day.
Pre Giuliani cleanup,
Pre everything, pre the muckrakers back in the day. But like, no, man, this is bad. This is just bad.
I mean, we can all agree that Urban Meyer is not lasting there past this year. If not, at worst,
half
like,
the season maybe.
Yeah, he might not even last this year. Like there was already discussion.
Dude, aren't they paying him like $12 million a year or something?
Yeah, bro, they're paying him a lot, but like, how long can you go on with this? Like, the guy literally didn't go back with his team on the flight to stay back and have a chick grind on him at a bar in Ohio. Like, think about how absolutely insane that is for an NFL head coach to do. Like, maybe a high school coach or something like that, but you're an NFL coach for a multi-billion-dollar organization, and instead of flying back to Jacksonville with your team, and if he did it in Jacksonville or something like that, like it would have looked bad, obviously, but it wouldn't be as bad. But he stayed back in Ohio where he played in Cincinnati, and he went to a bar and had a 25-year-old grinding on him at the bar. Like, how possibly stupid can you be to do that?
While his wife was watching the kids at home, by the way.
Like, oh my god, it's dumb.
He's married.
Like he's from Ohio. Like he coached Ohio. I'm sure he has a home in Ohio. That's why he stayed there. But like, Man, I don't get how you be that stupid. And like this goes out to all the media people that said that Trevor Lawrence should avoid the Jets because they're a disaster and this and that. And God bless him getting Urban Meyer and go to Jacksonville, blah blah. Like, how do you feel now, dumbasses? Well, we have Joe Douglas, Zach Wilson, and we're looking good. After last game, everything's looking good. Our coach isn't at the bar, grinding with 25-year-olds. He's taking the fight home with the team. He's doing what he has to do. So it's just a mess in Jacksonville. I feel bad for Trevor Lawrence because I actually do like him. He's a good guy. Whether he was a Jet or not, like I still root for his success. But everything that's going on in Jacksonville right now is a mess, and I don't see how it's going to get any better.
Yeah, not our problem. Shout out Zach Wilson. He got the game ball from Robert Saleh. He got the game ball from his coach after a W in which he was, I think he was Rookie of the Week, fellas. So, hey, come on now. But I agree with Dame. I think Jurg will agree too. We're all rooting for Trevor Lawrence. We're all Trevor Lawrence fans. He is going to be great. And just might take a while for that to come to fruition in the NFL because, the pit that is Jacksonville, is unfortunately his home. Sorry, any Jacksonville viewers. All right, let's move on over to Miami now. Dame, let me start off with you. I personally had high expectations for the Miami Dolphins going to the season, but there's been some injuries, some stuff here and there. Tua's out for the foreseeable future. I think Will Fuller is out, broken finger or something. Look, they're 1-3 right now as of this recording. Their next game is against the Bucks. Spoiler alert. I don't think we have the Dolphins beating the Bucks. But look, maybe I'm overreacting, but are they underachieving? And what do you think of them and how do you think they're going to be performing going forward when you take into account, Tua out, Will Fuller out, and I don't know, maybe you guys have been watching the games more intensively. So the offense looks a little stagnant, Jacoby Brissett is, I think, their starting quarterback at the moment, but look, I was bullish on them going into the season, but now I'm starting to become a little bearish. So, am I overreacting, game?
No, I don't think you're overreacting, but I don't think they're underachieving either. Because they, like I said, like you mentioned, Tua is hurt. That is their starting quarterback that they build their whole offense around and their future around. So I can't really judge him until he really comes back and fully healthy and plays multiple games in a row. But it's kind of concerning that he is hurt this early in the season, this early in his career. Like he had his injury problems in Alabama, and that was a concern coming in for him from college to NFL. So it is concerning for them. I didn't have them making the playoffs. I had the Patriots over them in the division in our preseason standings. So I didn't really have that high expectations for them, but I definitely expect them to be better than this. That defense has been underwhelming as well. Like, let's not go over that. Like, although Tua has been hurt, like that defense was supposed to ball out and really be the strength of that team, and they just haven't been the same defense they were last year. I know Tua's supposed to come back, I think, in 2 weeks or next week or something like that. So hopefully he's come back fully healthy and he's not rushing it back because there's really no point. Like, this team isn't ready to contend. Like, he needs to come back fully healthy so he can really develop his game and develop this team around him. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But that defense definitely to me is alarming that they haven't been playing as well as they were last year.
Yeah, Jurg, we're looking dumb because we had the Dolphins second in the AFC East.
Yeah. People that suffer from constipation clear their systems better than what the Dolphins' offenses look this season.
Wow.
It's not been good.
You're on a roll, brother. You're on a roll.
Thank you. Jalen Waddle, they don't know how to use him. Brian Flores and that offense is failing him. Fun fact, they apparently have two offensive coordinators. Like, they have two people trying to call the offense down there. Like, that says it all to me. If you got two people trying to do it, you might as well have no one. So, and it's a mess down there. It really is. The defense hasn't looked the same. But they at least, there's Xavier Howard, there's Byron Jones, there's some like they will have a game or two where they'll at least perform a little bit better. But this offense is bad. It's really bad. Jacoby Brissett as well. Like, Jacoby Brissett's a reliable backup. Like, he's a guy that, yes, I know he said of himself he could still be a starter. I don't know about that, Jacoby, but at the same time, like, he's proving he can win games in the NFL, and it's just looked terrible with him. And partially, like, he hasn't looked great, but I think it's just that offense. It's not good. They've somehow taken steps back despite the fact that Shane Gailey is no longer there. How do you take steps back as an offense when Shane Gailey's no longer your coordinator? How? So at the end of the day, like, yeah, here's the thing. I was starting to have some suspicions on the Dolphins going into the season, but I'm like, all right, let me just stick with what I initially thought. Let's hope that Tua could take that next step. And if Tua was healthy right now and if he took the next step, we'd be fine. But Tua's hurt again. We don't know if he'll take the next step when he gets back. The offense isn't looking great. It's looking ugly in Miami right now. The one saving grace is the fact that they're not the worst football team in Florida because, Jacksonville got them
Oh,
covered.
low blow. This man Jurg is throwing just uppercuts, everything. 1-2 jabs. All right, let's move on over to Texas. No, not the Houston Texans. We're gonna be talking about the Cowboys now, guys. The Cowboys are 3-1. I think they're the clear-cut favorite to come out the NFC East. Yeah, so the rest of their schedule is looking pretty. Tell me how you think the rest of the schedule looks like. They got the Giants this upcoming week, then the Patriots, then the Vikings, then the Broncos, and the Falcons, and the Chiefs, Raiders, Saints, Washington, Giants again, Washington again, Cardinals, Eagles. I think the schedule looks favorable for the Cowmen. Now, me and Damien know some Cowboys fans off podcast, and there's some high hopes I think for the Cowboys. Now, it is the Cowboys. Let's take that into account, but are we buying them as a contender in the NFC? I know we talked about the Cardinals being a contender, and the Cardinals have given us every reason to be believers. But Jurg, talk to me. Do you buy the Cowboys? Look, the offense. I think we all buy the offense. The defense is where we'll have questions at. But when you look at their upcoming schedule, what do we think? Clearly they're gonna. I think they're coming out the NFC East, of course, but. Do you buy them as a contender? Look, I think the NFC, maybe I'm the only one in this podcast thinking this, but I think the NFC is a little bit more crowded than the AFC. You look at I just think the entire NFC West, but primarily the Cardinals. Then you have the Packers. Then you have the Bucks. And now then I guess you could put the Cowboys there. So do you buy them as contenders? How do you see them going forward, at least?
I mean, I definitely have them right now as the favorite to win the NFC East because Washington has just not performed to the standards that most would have expected,
Yes.
especially that defense. In regards to contenders, like it's kind of hard because I think like we've seen some good defensive performances so far. Like they held Carolina for a majority of the game. Like Carolina's scores really came like towards the very end. I don't want to say garbage time because it was a one possession game, but still. And they held Justin Herbert to probably what was his quote unquote worst game of the season so far, at least the lowest scoring output. So when you look at it like that, like the Cowboys defense has performed relatively well, this first quarter of the season. Like we know the offense would be good. The real thing is Zeke, like has had some moments here where it looks like he is Zeke again. Now he needs to put that together for more consistent stretch of games. But could that potentially happen as the season goes on? It really just all depends. Like if this offense can even take another step forward, because the last 2 weeks, like I think we saw the Panthers defense, they benefited from terrible competition to start. And also the game before was against the Eagles. Enough said there. But I think the offense is talented and that Cowboys defense, it really all depends. Like the loss of DeMarcus Lawrence didn't hurt them immediately, but how long will it hurt down the line in this season? I think there's still just so many questions, but you want to buy, if you want to tell me like you think this team like could be competitive in a game against some of the other opponents, like I'm still kind of 50-50, like because the Packers have a bad defense, so I think they could probably compete against them. Tampa Bay and the Rams, I'm kind of iffy on right now. But if you want to tell me, kind of like Dame said earlier, if you want to put the Cowboys as your like fourth team for sure right now, and maybe argue them as your third in the NFC, I don't blame you. I really don't.
Oh, and also, by the way, they did beat the Panthers, and I don't want to say this, knock on Cowboys fans, but like they beat the Panthers by 8, and that's without Christian McCaffrey. So I think, let's assume if the Panthers had Christian McCaffrey, I think the result would have been different. Maybe it's just me. Dame, go ahead.
I started Panthers game, like they kind of were blowing them out, and the Panthers came back in garbage time, so I'm not going to take too much into it, but I definitely think with Christian McCaffrey, it definitely would have been a different game from the beginning. As for the Cowboys as a contender NFC, like I'd probably have them as a fourth team as well. Behind no order, the Packers, Bucks, and Rams, and I probably have the Cowboys and Cardinals. I could switch both of them. Probably give the Cowboys the edge based off like experience and stuff, but I mean, they're good. They've always been a good team. They've always had the talented roster. Just they've always choked and something's always went wrong. So I'm kind of expecting that to happen again. I'm not taking too much stock in it, but they're definitely gonna run away with that division. As long as they stay healthy, of course. Like they would have ran away with it probably last year as well. Dak has looked good. Not MVP like some of their stupid overrated fans think. But,
Whoa.
but Dak has looked good. Definitely a comeback player of the year, but I don't think he's in the top 5 for MVP discussion or anything like that. That defense is definitely look good. Like compared to what they were last year and a couple years before, and what many people rated them. Like they've definitely looked good. Trayvon Diggs is an absolute stud, leading the league in interceptions. He's been balling out. Micah Parsons, like I mentioned before in the podcast, has been really balling out. Yeah, I don't think they're better than Packers, Bucks, or Rams. Like that could obviously change, but when it comes to the playoffs, I don't see them beating any of those teams.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, we do have some fellow fans that are mutual friends of ours that unfortunately are putting a little bit too much stock in the Cowboys. You know, we're seeing in the group chats, who's beating them? Well,
Yeah,
you know,
I
Rams,
I
Packers,
hear it and
Bucks.
see it every day. Yeah.
You know, the list goes on. In the NFC, of course. But yeah, I mean, who knows? I wouldn't mind the Cowboys in the playoffs just because like it's gonna be a storyline. You know, it'll be something to talk about. You know, and you know, Cowboys equals ratings, right? All right, let's move on over to our final storyline. It's not really a storyline, but fellas, the main game this upcoming week: the Buffalo Bills versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Clearly high expectations for this game. Earth-shattering consequences. Not really. I'm just guessing it. But look, I think this is an important game for both teams. The Buffalo Bills, I think, are in that tier 2 of the AFC. Look, everyone's in tier 2 until they beat the Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs have been like every team's kryptonite, but for the Buffalo Bills, who are establishing themselves as a dominant team in the AFC, you need to get through the Kansas City Chiefs, who has Patrick Mahomes, of course. Now, for Josh Allen, this is a huge game. I don't know the stats, but he hasn't necessarily had the best games against the Chiefs. And this is a rematch from the AFC Championship game from last year. So, look, for the Bills to be taken seriously, I think this is a game they have to win. The Ravens didn't. We had no faith in the Ravens winning that game, but chip on their shoulder. Lamar Jackson clearly took this game personally more than most. So I think the same needs to be said about the Bills. You know, we're just like, these AFC teams are good, but can they beat the Chiefs? And of course, regular season playoffs are different, but still, you want to have that confidence going forward. You want to like create a little bit of belief, you know, create a little bit of belief, create a little bit of hope that it's just like, okay, we have what it takes to beat them. And for the Chiefs, you know, they're 2-2. Their defense has looked really sus, and I think that's the common denominator here when people are picking against the Chiefs, that their defense has been so putrid this season. So look, they're playing against the Bills, who are a really good team, and I think a lot of people, from what I've seen so far, are picking the Bills, which is not necessarily surprising, but I think they're writing off the Chiefs a little too quick. No, Jurg, let me start off with you. Actually, how do you see this playing out? What do you think this could mean for the Bills if they do catch a W, and what do you think this could mean for the Chiefs if they catch a W? I mean, do you think maybe like this won't change a thing if the Chiefs win, but like it's a close game? Because I guess the storyline would be like, oh, the defense still stinks, you know. They're gonna have to outscore everyone to beat everyone, which is possible, but still, like I feel like if the Chiefs win by like a small margin, it's still gonna be the same thing. Oh, their defense is the one thing holding them back. But clearly, this means more for the Bills. Am I? Talk to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it does mean more to the Bills. I think if the Bills can get the W out this, I think a lot of people are going to start to turn their heads a little bit to if they met up with the Chiefs back in the AFC Championship game, could they potentially beat them? I think it's all about confidence for Buffalo. Like you need to give yourself the idea that you can beat them, and I think it starts with at least having a close game and then moving on to beat them. I think the Browns, relatively speaking, like we talked about the last two times they've played Kansas City to one possession games. I think to me that means like the Browns have that confidence. I don't like yes, the Bills have the confidence on paper, but they don't have a result to prove it. The Browns kind of have that. The Bills don't. So I think this is a get up game for the Bills. They're good. They're definitely going to attack the Chiefs here. Like the Chiefs are the back to back defending AFC champions, former Super Bowl champions now 2 seasons ago. Like they're going to come at them. And I think if you're the Buffalo Bills, you have to do that. You got to attack the champions. You always say this. I always believe in this. If you want to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. And at least in your conference, the Chiefs are the kings right now. So you got to deal with that. And I think this could go a long way to building up that morale, building up that belief to when you face them again in the playoffs, because I think they most likely will, that you need this and you can harken back to this kind of game. Now, I think for the Chiefs, I think a W, no matter what, it kind of, gets them back into a rhythm of, okay, let's get through this. Let's remind ourselves who we are. Let's remind the people who we are. If they blow out the Buffalo Bills, then I think the league should start to
Oh,
get scared. If they actually somehow blow out the Buffalo Bills in this game, the league needs to get scared because, like I said last week or 2 weeks ago, whichever one it was, all the talk of people wanting to try to wake up the Chiefs, like, oh, the defense is this, the defense is that. They just don't look the same. Mahomes and them, they're content. Da da da. If the Chiefs hang like 50 somehow or like 40 something, and they win similar to the AFC Championship game, y'all in trouble, and it's on you people that you wanted to wake up the Kansas City Chiefs with all this. Like I said, the criticisms to the defense are fair, but do you really want to get Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce all like that kind of in sync? Like that's a bold move there, and I think the league is going to have to deal with that if that is the case. I think a blowout victory here reestablishes the Chiefs' dominance in the AFC, and the like they don't even need to win this game. I already said this. They're going to win the AFC West. I'm not worried about that, but it's just all about the eyes to the generic people, because like we all know, let's be real here. To me, if the Chiefs could lose this game, they go into the playoffs. Like I'm still going to think that they should be the favorites to win, because they're just too supremely talented at 3 critical positions. Yes, the defense is still bad, but hey, like there's still 3/4 of the season left to go. Like time is their best friend right now. It's not their enemy until the last month of the year. So up to this point, time is Kansas City's best friend. And hey, who knows what they could do in terms of preparing for this game? Maybe this is the game that they finally get up for.
By the way, I think the Chiefs could be last place in the wild card. Like they could be last place wild card winners in 7th place, whatever, and I still think they're making out the AFC. So go
They're
ahead, Dave.
destroyed. That'll be the most unlucky 2 seed of all time if they had to face the Kansas City Chiefs in round 1 as the 7th seed. Like, that's just bad. I would not wish that upon my worst. Well, maybe I would. But.
That's some like Phoenix Suns, like, oh, we got the 2nd seed. Oh wait, we have to play the Lakers, And if the Lakers are healthy, we know how that would have been. But yeah, go ahead. That's another story. Go ahead, Dame.
Yeah, I think it's definitely more important for the Bills because if they somehow manage to win, like I don't think they will. I think the Chiefs are gonna win this handily. But for the Bills, it's kind of like getting that monkey off their back, beating the Chiefs, beating the team that everyone thinks is gonna win the AFC, and beating the team that is the reason why no one picks you to be going to the Super Bowl, because the Chiefs are in your conference. Patrick Mahomes is in your conference. Like that's the reason many people don't pick the Bills as a true contender. But I do think they're gonna get blown out. Josh Allen just hasn't looked the same this year. Stats like Kirk Cousins stats show that Kirk Cousins has been better. All these Dak has been better. All these other top quarterbacks have been better than him. Like I'm sure he'll get a little better, but like not to toot my own horn, but I kind of predicted this, that he wasn't going to be the same quarterback he was last year after signing that contract. So there's that. But as for the Chiefs, like I think this is the game that they really show everybody, like, yeah, we're still the Chiefs. I'm still Patrick Mahomes. We're still going to put up 40. We're still that best offense in the league. Like, we're still the top dog to be reckoned with. Like, nah, but I do think to start the game is definitely going to be good. But second half is where I see the Kansas City Chiefs kind of taking control of the game and really putting their stamp on it.
Whew. I can't wait for that game, man. Yeah. I think regardless, there's going to be a storyline following it. It's either, the Bills beat the Chiefs. Chiefs are, they're falling off a cliff, or, the Chiefs are back. So either way, I think there's going to be something to talk about. But I just hope we get a good game at least. Like, NFL season's been on fire. And look, we're, quote of the podcast, we're recording on Thursday. This will be released Friday. But tonight, Rams versus the Seahawks. I'm excited for this game. I know you two are. Huge game, huge implications. Seahawks, must win for them. Must win for my second favorite team. Who knows? You never know with the Seahawks. But that'll do it for this week. Gentlemen, amazing job. As always, you nailed it. You hit it out the park. Grand slam. Speaking of, we had a really good game of baseball yesterday, in which the Dodgers beat the Cardinals in the wild card game. The Dodgers will now be facing the San Francisco Giants. So sports are really coming in full throttle. Basketball's around the corner. Oof, Jurg, I'm excited. Talk to me. Where can they find us on the socials, buddy?
Well, hockey's also around the corner.
Excuse me.
You can follow us at the SomeWhatSports Instagram page, of course, on YouTube, as you guys know if you're listening to this, so I don't really have to say, but like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube, like, comment, follow on the Instagram, share the Instagram profile to everyone you know, friends, best friends, family, girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend, I don't care. Even if your relationship didn't end so well, at least give them the greatest sports podcast that they will listen to, without a doubt.
Whew. Wow. Yeah. Just taking shots at the other sports podcast. I see you, Jurg. I see where your heart lies. Beautiful. So, Jurg and Dame, thank you. As always, to all the listeners, thank you for making it all this way. Oh, we're under an hour this week. This is huge accomplishment. So yeah, everyone, thank you. Stay safe, and until next time, a peace.
Peace.